Italian Culture Institute, who will inaugurate the second day. Yesterday he was in another event. So now the floor is yours, Professor Scalmani. Yes, please.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mahmoud Al-Shandiri. It's really a pleasure and an honor to participate in this beautiful initiative. Let me start thanking you, Dr. Mahmoud, and also the colleague.
Thank you for organizing.
Also the colleague in Rome, the Italian and Egyptian colleagues in Rome, Professor Marba Fauzi from the Cultural Office of the Egyptian Embassy. Thank you so much for your effort and for giving me the possibility to collaborate. So today it's the International Day of Museums. We want to celebrate the museums, and the focus is on sustainability. I want to approach the issue from, let's say, a social point of view. And I will start just saying that we actually collaborated with, as Italian Cultural Institute in Cairo, with several museums in Egypt. And the idea was to foster the accessibility of the museums. For example, in the newly reopened Greco-Roman Museum in Alexandria, we prepared, together with the Omero Museum of Ancona, a tour for visually impaired people. So we wanted to have them participated in the experience of museum. We prepared a tour for tactile experience. We also digitized the displays of the museums in the Biblioteca Alexandrina and also in the Namek, and we plan together with the Egyptian authorities to digitize more. And we brought also the virtual museum, which is an Italian experience, to Egypt. The idea so is to close the gap between audiences and museums collaborating with Egyptian authorities and institutions. So that's what we have done in the last few years. Strictly speaking about museums collaborations, then we did many things with Dr. Mahmoud Al-Shandiri knows very well about the cultural heritage and archaeology, but let's just focus on museums. I will try to summarize my speech in 7 moves, like a chess game. So 7 moves. Just keywords. First keywords is the accepted wisdom. Museums have a strict relation to past. They preserve cultural heritage. They shape our collective identity. They are a repository of the heritage, of the cultural heritage, because we want to preserve it for the future generation. That's the first approach to museums. Second keyword, humanity, or as we say in Latin, humanitas, at the core of museums. We all live in a world which is challenged by urbanization, growing inequalities, international tensions, climate change, and the constant pressure to adapt. So museums actually, in all this complex context, offer to us a different dimension from which we can observe what surrounds us. Museums provide a sort of sanctuary, if I might use this word, where we can reconnect with our roots. We can find solace, support in knowledge, in science, in beauty. So what museums are, in the contemporary world, a sort of window, open windows to our culture and to other cultures, a display of diversity, a door to access what we call the other with a capital O. Not by chance, it's very common. Museums attract tourists, or better said, voyagers, travelers, searching to approach cultures and traditions they do not really know, or they want to get into deeply. So, in this way, museums contribute to the definition of what human beings are. Not a simple task. Museums actually prove that at the core of human identity lies diversity. We cannot define humankind in other ways than using a rich, complex, multiple approach, like only museums can give us. And especially, I would underscore what is important is cultures in plural, museums in plural, which means international collaboration is fundamental in the realm of cultural heritage and promotional culture, which is one of the main tasks that museums actually absolve. And so it's what the museums are is actually a part of the definition of what human being, as we all are, is, what it means to be a human being, and especially what is distinctive to humankind, the learning capacity, which means possibility of change, possibility to humanize our way of life, to bring humanity, humanitas, as we can say in Latin, to bring humanity to our social structures. Museums were built to serve as a bridge through generations, to foster the appreciation of the past. Because when museums were founded, the founders believed that precious collections must be preserved in museums. Precious collections, something that is valuable. But what kind of values were at the core of museums? Because when we say values in contemporary world, immediately we think of economic value, financial value. Is that really the value that we want to protect in museums? I would start then the third point on this question. Museum as means to foster creativity. And the answer is this to the previous question. What are the values that we want to be preserved in museums? I think we want to preserve, among many things, creativity. Because creativity is something that is a basic part of basic human needs. Museums, according to the ICOM definition, it was definitely approved in Prague in 2022. Museums are not-for-profit entities. Not-for-profit entities. So the value, it's not a financial value at the end. It's not profit, which is a typical, goal that all the economic markets are pursuing. Museums cater to our inherent desire for creativity and self-expression. I think creativity is really a basic human need. And when we lack the possibility to express our creativity, to realize our creativity, we start suffering. So museums actually are a perfect tool to contrast social dysfunctions that are at the roots of many social problems. Think about depression, for example. Depression is one of the most spread problems that we have in our world. I think museums contribute to well-being, so to a basic human need, contribute to contrast the Causes of depression. I might sound to maybe to enter into the realm of psychology, but I think it's true. When you walk into a museum, into a gallery, you see a collection, you find thought-provoking objects, you find relevant images, you find something that revolutionized aesthetic. All those impressions, all those stimuli bring you something that is invaluable, something that can change the approach to knowledge, to the enjoyment of your life. So it's museums as a basic human need institution, let's say. One thing more, and it's the fourth move. I would like to move to the basic importance of free inquiry, free research, which is at the origin of museum historically and also, functionally. Museums solve questions and raise other questions. Solves questions about the interpretation of the past, lecturing the object, what the objects tell to us, but also the museums can push us to rethink about who we are. Museums push us to delve into the depths of our own existence. That's the free research, typical free research attitude, because museums challenge our preconceived notions, exposing us to diverse perspectives, different narratives, something that we don't know. So by providing several different approaches and concepts, we start to be questioning ourselves, and we enter into a dialogue with these other entities which are collected in a museum. So we are now, in a museum, we face different interpretation of history, different ways of living in differences in an array of societies. So museums become catalysts for personal growth and personal enlightenment, allowing the individuals to broaden their horizon and develop a deeper understanding of who we are. So, in a way, the museums help us finding meaning in life. Thanks to a visit to a museum, we start thinking that our world that we used to know, it's smaller than the real world outside of us. We become aware, after a visit to a museum, that our perception is limited in time, limited in space. There is so much more to discover. Museums prove it. A walk in a museum is a journey through the huge diversity of humankind, through its complex dynamics and changes. It's a life-changing experience, if you want. Then museum, and it's the fifth move of my speech, museums prove also one more thing. They are repositories of culture, we know that, but they are also, I think, one of the most important tools to pursue cultural well-being and cultural justice. Imagine in our society in which structural inequalities still persist, museums are one of the few institutions that can guarantee equal access to knowledge, irrespective of economic or social background, And listen, this is something really unique. What museums should do, and are doing actually, they remove the barriers that hinder, that impede the access, not just the physical barrier, but also the social and psychological obstacles that hinder the access to culture. So it's an invaluable social tool. Imagine a young child growing up in a disadvantaged community who walks into a museum for the very first time. It happens so frequently, school visit, field visit. In that moment, it's a magical moment. In that moment, an opportunity, a unique opportunity is created to expand the child's world. A child who feels comfortable in a welcoming space can overcome negative emotions, fears, and shame attached to the cultural gap she might feel. That's common. Kids are intimidated by institutions. And if the institution is welcoming, they can feel themselves at ease and they can learn so much more. So children are actually the future of the museums. And through the education, through the, let's say, this kind of education, which only museums can provide, museums are becoming the most inclusive and equalizing institution that we know in the culture and artistic realm. Museums empower individuals to embrace their own cultural legacy, to feel proud of what their community has been doing for centuries. But also, museums open the visitors, and especially the children, to the consideration and respect of others' cultural heritage, fostering that sense of belonging and pride that transcends societal constraints. We really need that now. That sense that culture is universal. And we belong to a culture, of course, we are an expression of a language, of a culture, of traditions, but we also transcend those traditions. And we can appropriate ourselves, we can transcend ourselves into the universal value of culture, which was at the very origin of the UNESCO institution. Let me just conclude with a final remark. Museums are more than buildings filled with artifacts. They are vital organs of the societal body. They are engine of social change, a space where our minds and hearts can embrace creativity, knowledge, self-discovery. Museums are a place where to experience the possibility of change and, in our case today, the possibility of being sustainable. We need to experience sustainability as such. And listen, being sustainable, as according to what scientists say, is one of the most difficult tasks that humanity is facing right now. There's no government, there's no state that can say that it is really sustainable, because the input and output of the system we are living in are not compensating each other. We consume much more input and we get less output. So the circle of sustainability is not so easy to build. But museums can, and also to experience. But museums are the right place where we can really live the experience of sustainability, which is a big change. It's actually, if considered seriously, it is a revolution of the way of life that especially the Western culture has been cultivating in the last 2 centuries. A big revolution. Museums can be at the forefront of this revolution. So I think I gave a tribute to museums, and so next time you walk into a grandiose hall or a small, corridor in a small local museum, take a moment to truly appreciate the invariable social function of museums. Engage with the wonders on display. Allow yourself to be transported to different eras, different cultures, and relish in the transformative power museums hold. Let us ensure that museums continue to grow and expand their influence on our society, safeguarding our world's cultural wealth and inspiring generations to come. Thank you all.